Okay, thank you. Another question for all candidates is, this questioner would like to know, what is your position on the Greater Idaho measure? Start with Bev.
Well, I happen to know a lot about Idaho. I think I had a comment at one of the forums that said, this is Oregon, not Idaho. But I believe that there's a lot of Oregon that wishes it was Idaho, and for good reasons, because of the solvency of the way the government operates overall, and for instance, their PERS is amazing. But on the other hand, I also understand how people want to retain Oregon for Oregon. And so therein is my answer, whatever is the will of the people. So I would defer to the voting public.
I would echo that comment. My personal choices is I moved here with my wife 12 years ago when we bought our house. I moved to Oregon. I didn't move to Idaho. I was looking at Idaho too, but I decided I wanted to move to Oregon. And if I had to do Oregon, I would have moved here 20 years earlier. But if it was Idaho, I doubt it. I like Oregon. I love Oregon. Oregon is where I live, and this is where I wanted to stay. So that's kind of my personal choice. It's up to the voters. If the voters choose to do that, then we go by the voters, and then I change hats again, like I have with all the oil companies I've worked with. I've gotten used to it.
I'm opposed. I just as soon work on fixing Oregon and making it be what we want it to be. But again, I always frustrate when folks ask me my opinion about important ballot issues, because I'm far more interested in hearing what the electorate says and try not to influence that vote personally, but I'll be voting no.
First and foremost, we're a representative of the citizens of Douglas County. If the citizens of Douglas County, they truly want that, we'll do in our power, in my power, to make that a possibility, try to make that happen. Now, my personal opinion, I'm young, bought my first home. I've had it for about 5 years. I see the politics in the state of Oregon, and I really considered just packing up and moving to Idaho. I mean, it looks like, compared to here, it looks like a dream. However, Oregon is a beautiful state. I think we can all agree on. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful states there are. And going to church and becoming a man of faith, I don't think the Lord, he would be upset at me if I just packed it up and took the easy route. He doesn't want us to do that. Our founding fathers, when they set up this country, that had taken a Constitution class, they say it is our duty to stand up and take back and just restore order, essentially, to what is ours. They didn't tell us to run away and hide. You know, they got away from the British due to the taxes, and then when the British followed them, they stood up and they fought. So, you know, stand up for Douglas County and let's take care of this.
I can certainly understand why people feel frustrated and maybe look at the Greater Idaho movement, move to Idaho to undo some of the things that they think are wrong. But I, for one, love Oregon for all its warts, and I want to work very, very hard to fix Oregon so that maybe someday people in Idaho want to move to Oregon. Okay.
So we were asked this question already over a week ago at the Real Estate Association forum. And I'll say what I said then, which is that I was born in Oregon, I'm definitely an Oregonian, and I feel the same way, that we should stay here and we should fix things. I think we've got a lot to stay and fight for. There's one thing that I really like about Idaho, and that is that they have a higher timber severance tax than we do, and that probably attributes to why they rank a lot higher than Oregon in many of their criteria. So I don't think that the incumbent commissioners support Greater Idaho, because then their corporate donors would not have the kind of power that they have in Oregon. Thank you.
So that's an interesting question that came up a couple years ago, and the Board of Commissioners put an advisory question on your ballot. So many of you have already voted on this. That was a few years ago. Most of the voters, the majority of the voters said no to the idea then. It is back as an initiative petition, and it's a measure that you're all going to get to vote on again. And really, it's interesting that this continues to be asked of county commissioners. County commissioners have no part of the process of changing state borders. It's a legislative process. So how it works is both legislatures in both states have to pass identical bills agreeing on where the border is going to be moved to, and then Congress has to ratify it. You notice there's no part of county commissioners in that? So I don't mind people talking about it, but it's interesting, you're asking the wrong group of people. We're not the people that make that decision, and quite honestly, the voters aren't either. You can't vote yourself to another state. It takes that process I explained. It will be interesting to see what the last 2 years of pandemic and issues that have gone on, if that's going to change the voters' minds. But we're going to find out here in about 3 weeks.
The land is the land, and whatever we call it, it's still where we're at. Douglas County is Douglas County, and it will be Douglas County. But what the rulers of the state that are mandating some of the issues that are creating problems for us, we need to be able to stand up and say, no. What's going on up in Salem, they have this supermajority, and they'll probably have the supermajority for some time because that's where the population base is. And unless we as individuals in the county say, no, we are not going to be mandated, because we have to be able to stand, and our land is our land. It'll always be, no matter what we call it.
Thank you. The next question for everyone is, starts with a little background. It says, Douglas County is suffering from what some call a child care drought. What can the commissioners do to support the residents who need help with child care in order to go to work, school, etc.? And we'll start with Mike Ruby.
Well, some of you are probably shaking your head like me. I'm trying to come up with an idea for that. I really don't really have an opinion on it. Look, that's the first time I've been asked that question.
Okay, we can go on to Chris.
So this is something that we've been working on actually for quite some time. It goes back to the comment that I made earlier about workforce inability, and part of that problem is childcare. So there's a coalition of folks in the community called the Douglas County Child Care Coalition that have formed specifically in order to work on that one issue. We have granted them money, we have helped them in multiple different ways. One of the other things that we're currently looking at, just from the county and to help our own employees and to potentially provide some added relief to members of the community, is opening a child care facility on campus at the courthouse. So we've got a building that we're willing to renovate. We're in the beginning stages of trying to put together a request for proposals for an outside entity to come and run that facility that would give county employees the opportunity to have child care available, but also for members of the public, as long as we can stay within capacity.
And childcare to me is kind of a tough one. In fact, that's what me and my wife are dealing with right now. I'm fortunate enough she gets to work from home. Now, if she didn't get to work from home, I don't make enough, she doesn't make enough. I couldn't afford childcare, a babysitter, or any of that. My daughter's not old enough to go to school. Not that I want her to go to public school anyways. You know, so that one there, you could allocate money to try to help families afford babysitting or childcare, daycare, whatever it is that they need. But, you know, in my personal opinion, if you're an adult and you have kids, it is your responsibility to do everything in your power by yourself to make sure those kids have a chance. You know, it's not up to you to have to take care of my daughter when I chose to have her, you know. Yes, we can help. There are people that need help, and we need to help those people, but how do you go about instituting a program that's not going to get abused by the general public? Because we see that anytime we offer a welfare program, that gets abused on a large scale.
Because we've been working on this at Douglas County currently, Commissioner Boyce nailed that, and he's got that down. I don't have much to add other than I do hope that when we get finished with what we're doing at the county and making that available to our employees, that working out some of the bugs and kinks in that becomes a model for some other employers, because it's clearly an issue. But as to most of it, Commissioner Boyce hit it pretty hard.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a curveball. I think that I was thinking a lot of the same things that Marcus vocalized, which is that I think millennials tend to take a much more responsibility approach to like having kids. Like, we do not generally believe that you should have kids if you can't take care of them yourself, because I think that that's part of the kernel of this question is, are there going to be government subsidies or benefits or welfare like in some socialized countries? I don't think that that's appropriate for us here, but what I do think is a trend is younger people like myself and Marcus wanting to work from home. I do work from home as well. I sell clothes online. And I think that that's really the trend that we're going towards, is more people telecommuting and using the internet. So I think that it's important that we have Wi-Fi available everywhere, especially in rural areas where people may be living who have kids. Thank you.
This will come as no secret to any of you. Millennials are who's having kids, largely because people that have children are a little bit younger than some of us older folks. So it is in fact a need that is for younger people. However, it is a community need, and it is an employer need. We certainly have seen at the county the need to find creative ways to get workforce to provide you all services. And other businesses have adopted models of providing daycare for their employees, and we're hoping that'll work out. In my previous role as your state legislator, I happened to be the co-chair of the Ways and Means Subcommittee for Health and Human Services. And I know the programs, including employment-related daycare and other programs the state funds, really at hundreds of millions of dollars throughout the state. And at times, those programs are in high demand. But it is a state function of government. County's got to be really careful wanting to tackle things that are not county responsibility or county level of government when the state's already doing it. And I would encourage you all to work with the state for your employment-related daycare and other services.
Children, of course, are our future, and we have to take care of our future. As a community, we need to take care of our future. Grandparents may be a real asset for families. Young families can find themselves in a position where they aren't doing the job for their kids. I really support some of the different organizations like the Family Development Center and other organizations that help kids, like Head Start, that sort of thing. And this is an individual decision, what a parent wants to do, because the parent is the person that's responsible for that child. And if the parent isn't able or willing to do so, we as a community must step in and make sure that that child is taken care of.
Okay, well, I think that's a fine line. And I would much more prefer that, as Marcus mentioned, that our young people who are having families really do that with the expectation that they are going to take care of their kids and they are going to find their child care. On the other hand, we do know that we have a population and certain people who struggle that have legitimate needs. My concern would be, again, there's a lot of grant dollars, there's a lot of money out there, there's for this type of thing, and I think we have to be very careful, because I think it can cultivate a dependency on government. So yes, let's help who needs help, but then again, let's also look at the resources we have and be responsible about that.
All right, so this question is a two-part question, and we'll start with Chris. The question is, where did the majority of the $500,000 in donations come from to fight the Home Rule Charter? And who has contributed to your campaign and how much?
So I don't know exactly where the money came from to fight the home rule charter because I wasn't working on that. I haven't looked, I don't have any idea. Who's supported my campaign? The list is very long. It's available on, it's all public information. You go to orstar.com. You can, look at my campaign finance activity and see every single person that supported my campaign. But primarily, it's business owners from all around the county in all different industries. So we've got some of my biggest donors are like Fred Wall Marine over at the coast. I've got Lone Rock Timber, large contribution, trailer manufacturer in Sutherland, mostly business people in the community, and then some private donations as well.
Is this a question for everybody? or-
Oh, yes, it is for everyone, and I understand that some of you may not know the background to the Home Rule Charter funding, but if you know it, you can answer it, and the other question is who has contributed to your campaign and how much?
As far as the home rule charter, that one's new. I'd have to read up or learn about that before I can even comment, because that'd be foolish of me to comment on something I know nothing about. Donations, it's just me. I don't believe, I understand it takes money to run a campaign, and it takes money to get somewhere. I've had family members that come along and like, if you need some money, we can kick some money your way. And I said, I don't want that. I think as soon as you start taking money from businesses and nonprofits or any of these corporations, you start opening the door to, are you actually serving the best interest of the people, or are we serving the best interest of those corporations? I don't want my judgment of character to come into question. Therefore, I think it's better to stay away from that. Then as a voter, Lone Rock or whoever, they don't have any sway over me. They did not make a donation. They have no power over me as the potential commissioner.
Thank you. I don't know anything about the home rule charter either. I've never read up on that. As far as my campaign, I'm very humbled. 4 years ago with my campaign, I'd have people approach me as soon as I filed and say, what can we do to help? We need good leadership in there. And they were willing to invest in Douglas County. And that went on today. As soon as I refiled for re-election, I had people come to me and say, how can we help? I have people come to me and say, you haven't came to me today. Are you flush? Are you ready to go on this? Because we would like to help you make sure that you stay in there. We think you're doing a good job. And I will tell you that my level of integrity is such that I never thought that they were buying something. This is something they invest in the community. They want good leadership. They care about Douglas County. A lot of them are businesses that need to grow and prosper here. And I will absolutely tell you they're ready to invest in it, and that's where the bulk of everything that I've got. And as Commissioner Boyd says, you can look on OurStar and it'll tell you exactly where it came from.
Yeah, so you can review candidates' campaign finance activity on the Secretary of State website. Sometimes it can be hard to find the account because of the name. Sometimes it's a little difficult. In the situation with the Home Rule Charter, the opposition, it didn't have Home Rule Charter in the title. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. It was something like Protect Douglas County Public Safety or something like that. And it had a list of the same donors that Tim and Chris, that donate to Tim, the major donors to Tim and Chris's campaign. I was actually out canvassing for the Home Rule Charter when I went by Gary Leaf's house and I saw a bunch of cars outside that were clearly there for a fundraising event. I don't know which all commissioners were there, but it appeared that that was the fundraising event to raise money against the Home Rule Charter. When we're talking about it, the issue gets kind of confused because the term limits were in two different initiative petition processes. Thank you.
So, I don't have it right in front of me, but if you look up the Home Rule Charter, to defeat the Home Rule Charter, spent about $160,000. So people that are standing up here saying $500,000 are just absolutely lying to you. That's all public information, and you can look at it. As far as my contributions, again, you're gonna have people say that if they took contributions, they feel like they were somehow biased or bought off. And I wanna really applaud those people that say that for telling you all their level of integrity. What they're telling you is if somebody gives them a campaign donation, they feel bought off or they gotta pay back somebody. That's not my level of integrity. I have no problem taking campaign donations. I don't keep track of who exactly gives them to me. I don't do favors. And never once have I felt like in any of the time raising money that I owe somebody, other than going and doing the very best job as a county commissioner that I can. My primary donors, the timber industry, again, I work on ONC timber issues, but also the healthcare industry, the doctors of Douglas County, and individual doctors, and veterans tend to help my campaign quite a bit, and I'm grateful for all those donors.
I've primarily been self-funding, and I do have a lot of signs out there, and they do cost a lot of money. I have got some private donations, but the majority, there is no corporate donations, and I am trying to run a campaign that is going to be pretty much spending every dime that I've put into it, and I plan on moving forward because I have a low budget, but I am someone that likes to follow a budget. And so I will maintain that budget and try to do a nice, clean campaign. I think the others have kind of explained where that money came from on the Home Rule Charter. But we do want to remember that the Home Rule Charter was not all about term limits. And when that was defeated, it wasn't just term limits. Thank you.
Well, there's a huge disparity between someone like me running in a campaign and an incumbent. And I don't personally hold anybody responsible. It's the way our system runs. And therein lies, I believe, the root cause of some of the problems we're having from the federal level all the way down to our local governances. So there's disparity there. That's all I can tell you. I mean, when I, am running a campaign for $1,500 and somebody else is running one for $150,000, how does that, how is that fair? I don't believe that it is.
I take no campaign contributions. That's why you don't see any signs from me out there. When Commissioner Kress says that they come running up to him because they, as soon as he files for his thing, he forgot to mention that he had one campaign contributor that contributed $100,000 to his campaign. 65% of his total campaign came from one person. What do you think they want? That's hijacking the election. $100,000, who out here can afford that? The commissioners have received $170,000 in campaign contributions since September 9th, when you could file. So you think about who's giving them all that money. Multnomah County has their own campaign finance limit that limits to $500. It was upheld by the Supreme Court in November of last year. Douglas County could do the same thing. If you look around, when the commissioners say that they don't allow the campaign contributions to influence their decisions, then how come all the big contributors are the ones being granted the money, the hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money, and how come all the key advisory boards, the park advisory board, the planning board, they're all, if you look at it, the majority of them are all campaign contributors. How many of you guys are on those advisory boards?
Next.
We're done.
You answered that already. Okay. All right, and we are getting close to being done, and I apologize. We always have this problem. We can't get to everybody's question in the time frame that we have allotted. But so I thank you very much for your patience. And at this point, we will move to the closing statements. Candidates have a minute to tell you about